Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butts-Tester. You guys know who I am, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on a fire. And that's what we want to do today. I want to introduce you to my guest, Quinae G. Jackson. She's Senior Director of Learning and Development at Wayfinders and founder of Overflow.Innovate.Lead Oil LLC. I know, great name, right? So you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go out, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea because we are about to get started. Hello, Quinae. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I am excited to talk to you today. Welcome to our series that we're doing for Black History Month. Still we rise, still we lead. Now, before we start talking about the all that you do, and I definitely want to have that conversation with you, I realize I may be introducing you to some new folks out there. With that being said, tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you you?
Yes, thank you so much. I call myself a learning architect. I translate vision into experiences, I turn values into systems, and I design how people become who they're meant to be. And I do all of that through my grounding in my Christian faith. It really shapes how I think about dignity, how I think about service, how I think about belonging, purpose, and intentionality.
Oh, I love it. My kind of purpose. Person, when you are walking in your purpose and you know that you have been called to be exactly who you present yourself to be. That is so important. We all have a different function, we all have a different task. And when we walk in our task, I will tell you, it really does change the world. I love it. I love it. Now,
Absolutely.
your leadership journey has unfolded in various ways where expectations are sometimes high, but resources can sometimes be limited. I know that I personally decided not to take out business loans, that I was going to work a little bit longer so that I could put that money to the side as an employee, put that money to the side so that I could finally branch out and be an entrepreneur. And so many people have similar stories. What has helped you stay grounded, but yet effective in those environments?
It's such a great question. And I would have to say that faith is really the discernment that I use to make business decisions. I always say I don't do anything that I'm not passionate about. And when I'm speaking of that passion, I'm speaking about the work, as you mentioned earlier, that I have been called into the world to do. When I first started my career, I was a classroom teacher. And I would say that my classroom was my pulpit. It didn't matter how much someone was paying me. What mattered to me is the purpose that I was serving. And so that is really the discernment of faith is what I've really used to guide the decisions that I make in the work that I do for my business, Overflow, Innovate, Lead. What I believe in that work is that God has sent me there to help people understand how to craft their own narrative. And I recognize that everyone may not be in the same position that I am to be able to understand the resources that are available to them or understand how to craft artifacts that can help them tell their own story. So I take the expertise that I have and that I use in the corporate world to help educators and other people, especially Black women, be able to have the tools that they need to live the life that they desire. And so that's how I have stayed grounded and just fully understanding that it's not about a paycheck, it's not about a number, it's truly about the purpose that I am serving.
Hmm. And I can definitely relate to that. I remember as a young person hearing people up on stage say, if my book only touches one person, if the work I've done only helps, one or two people. And I understood the words, of course, and I thought that I understood the sentiment until I started doing the work that I do. And it's true, if you help, don't get me wrong, a billion people, bravo. But if you only help one person as well, Bravo. Because we need the voice of each person, the way that they will present it, because someone needs to hear your voice the way that you say it. So I love that you are stepping up and doing that. Bravo, right? I love it. I love it. Now, your work centers on helping people feel that belonging and to claim their energy. Why do you believe that belonging, that sense of community, is foundational to meaningful growth or even helping people learn and expand?
Absolutely. So it's not just something that I believe is actually grounded in both science, neuroscience, and it's also grounded in biblical truths. What we know to be true is that when people feel safe, when they feel that they can show up as their true and authentic selves, then they're going to be able to achieve more. They're going to be able to be more creative. They're going to be able to have more success. There's something that actually happens in your brain when it switches from you feeling like you're in a situation of me against them. And then if you begin to have an experience that makes you feel like it's us together, your brain actually begins to calm down. Those systems that are triggered to help protect us actually begin to calm down so that the systems that are built to allow us to be creative can have more space to expand. If you think about the biblical principle, when David or when any person that you think about is up against something terrible, some terrible thing, at the moment where their fear begins to die down and they understand that the God who is with them is greater than the force that is against them, then their brain can think of more creative strategies. It can allow the voice of God to speak to them. It's why he knew that he could pick up those stones and that he could actually defeat Goliath. And so I think of the same thing when I do my work with belonging. I go into spaces, be they corporate spaces, be they Christian based spaces. If it's women's retreats, I host women's retreats. And my goal is to create a space where every individual in that room feels like they can show up as their true and authentic self. And when they feel that, the work that we have to do in that room, if it's a PD, right? If it's a curriculum that I'm teaching through my work that I do in corporate, or if it's a Bible study that we need to get through, or even if it's for a finance company or for some type of restaurant, whatever the goal is that we need to accomplish can only be fully accomplished when the people who are in that room can embody what's happening. And it's impossible for you to embody
Mhm.
what's happening if you don't feel safe. Your body remains in a fight or flee mode. And what we need is
Mhm.
your body to be in a learning mode.
Mhm. That is so true. And for anyone who doesn't quite understand, I want you to picture yourself in a situation, for women, it tends to be like we're not gonna go somewhere we're unfamiliar at night, right? Like our parents, our mothers and our grandmothers in particular have taught us, there's nothing for you out there after 9 o'clock, after 10 o'clock at night, because it could potentially be dangerous. And especially if you are alone or you're somewhere that you're unfamiliar, that uneasy feeling that you get. Imagine someone trying to teach you something new and you're busy, worried, looking about your surroundings or concerned about your well-being. Now, if we just put that in a business setting or a corporate setting, you're not going to soak in all the information that you should. So I am so thankful, Quinae, that you are mindful of that and you create environments where people are able to really slow down, take a breath, and then take it all in and learn what you are presenting. Very mindful of you. I love it. Now, you said that belonging is a strategic leadership tool, let's say, and not a soft skill. I love that. Was there a moment in your life where you realized that the shift had happened for you, that you had really started to understand that and that you were going to move in this new knowing?
Absolutely. One of the things I am most grateful for is growing up in what I always refer to as a traditional small Black Baptist church. And in that environment, we often get what I call voluntold. right? There are things that need to be done, and you have been identified. The scripture that they love to use on us was to whom much is given. You already know the end of that, right?
Right.
They used to take that to use it on us, right?
All
But
the time.
all the time. But what I learned, I started singing when I was about 4 years old. And what I felt when I stood up to give my first solo at this church, I sang God Has Smiled on Me. And when I stood up to sing that song, I was a bit nervous at first. And what I heard from the audience, one of the mothers, I'll never forget, she said, "Sing, baby." And then I
Mhm.
opened my eyes and I could see that everyone in that room was invested in me doing what God had called me to do. And from
Yes.
that moment forward, there's not been a moment where I've not understood that
Mhm.
wherever God is calling me to, He's going to equip me for it. And so that sense of knowing that those who are around me are for me happened very early on. And so now, even when I walk into rooms where people are very much not for me, that grounding, it does something magical. People always say, like, I really did not want to come to this PD. I had no plan of being here. And you can just, as the session unfolds, I can see it melting off of them. And at the end, they'll come and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I feel
Mhm.
lighter." And so that sense of belonging when I was 4, hearing that affirmation, understanding that I had been equipped to be there in that space. My mom always would tell me, "You have been designed for the moment that you're having, for the space that you're having, and you have everything you need to do what you need to do in that moment in time."
Mhm.
And that, along with my grandmothers, I had two strong grandmothers who, they guarded me. And so
Mhm.
there's nothing that I could do wrong. And just growing up in that environment of always being encouraged, that made me know that I belong. And even when I'm different, I still belong because I belong with that village.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, I love that. It has often crossed my mind why people believe that everyone can't succeed, that everyone isn't able to do what they were supposed to do, right? If the God that we love, the God that we serve, the God that we worship and adore, created this vast cosmos that we happen to live in, did all of that, why would you think that God couldn't also bless each one of us? Right? That the whole um I need to take it all so that you can't, or you're not worthy, or you're not like, I just don't understand that whole mentality. God is so much bigger than that. And there is enough room for all of us, enough abundance for all of us. I'm so glad that you two walk in that mindset. Um, Wonderful,
Absolutely.
wonderful.
And if I
Hmm.
could just say,
Yes, please.
not only is there enough room and space, we are all better when we create opportunities for everyone who is around us to
Hmm.
operate in their own gifts and talents. As a leader, one of the things that is critical for any member on my team is you have to understand that I will not micromanage you. I selected you
Hmm.
because there is a gift that I see in you. There is a talent that I see in you, and
Hmm.
I honor that. So I hired you because I want to lean into your expertise and I want you to have the space to do that because
Right.
when you succeed, it makes all of us look better. And so we have to create space for people to operate in their gift because the same thing happens that we talked about earlier. If you are working with someone and they are afraid or they don't feel safe to allow their creativity to flourish, they're operating in a fight or flee mode as well.
Mhm.
And you're not going to get the best of them. And I don't know about you. I want the best of everything that God has for
Mhm.
me. And I want that for everyone around me because when you look good, I look good. We all look good together.
Absolutely, absolutely. No one, and I think you and I both agree that I don't want you to operate from a place of lack, from the scarcity. I want you to operate from the abundance, the fullness thereof. So I could not agree with you more there. Now, along that same vein, I love that you talk about moments where we need to be mindful. We need to be aware. With that being said, how does someone who has experienced perhaps a little bit more negative or a little bit more downtime than positive time, how do they learn to settle into their mindset of we're going to have strong outcomes, right? That there may have been a miss, there may have been a drop the ball, there may have been some, I don't even know what happened there, right? Like that's sometimes you have that you didn't plan for something and you have no idea what went wrong. How do we help people learn from that, but then move forward in the lesson, in the clarity, and in the integrity that was intended?
I think it's a great question. And for me, I think the first step in doing that begins with intentionality.
Mhm,
I believe that whenever you experience anything, all things are working together for the good of them who love the Lord, whom are called according to his purpose. And so the intentionality in that is whom are called according to his purpose. So the first step is you've got to go back and be intentional to ensure that your purpose is aligned with whatever is happening. When the purpose is aligned, then that allows you to understand that it was not something that I did that was so wrong that can't be corrected. It's just
mhm,
something that I need to realign to my intentions and to my purpose. And
mhm,
so once that intentionality happens with making sure that whatever it is we're approaching is actually intentionally aligned to our purpose, I believe the next step that they have to take is that we have to acknowledge what actually happened. Because the only way for us to do things differently, I
mhm,
always say that you can do an autopsy of any situation. You can do an autopsy of whatever happened so that you can actually get down in there, dig deeply to see where those missteps happen. Because the only way to avoid them happening again is for you to identify. Sometimes things happen and we don't actually reflect on it. I'm an educator by trade. And so I believe in a full instructional cycle. And that instructional cycle ends with reflection because if you don't reflect on it, even if you got a 100 on it, if you don't
mhm,
reflect on it, you may not even understand what supported you in getting to that 100. So once you reflect, you've been intentional about realigning with your purpose. That's step one. Step two, you have to reflect, do an autopsy of what went wrong so that you can identify where you got off track. And then step three is to simply be intentional again with what you're
mhm,
going to do to move forward. You cannot move forward, right? Looking back. This one thing I know, I press forward towards the mark. What is the mark? Be intentional with identifying the mark. The mark is, okay, my goal is to do A, B, or C. Okay. The mark
mhm,
is I will no longer do A, B, or C. And it has to be a goal that is attainable. It can't be, I'm never going to do this thing again. It needs to be, this has been a problem for me. I want to be intentional because my purpose is really aligned to me being in this space. How I can focus on my goal in this space is by making sure when I enter this space, I have a journal so I can take notes, that I am using perhaps an AI tool or what have you to again help me make sure I'm capturing everything because perhaps where I misstep before is that someone asked me to do something and I missed it. So what tool am I going to bring with me into this environment to make sure that I don't miss anything? And then step
mhm.
three, before I turn it in or submit it, I'm going to make sure that I double check it. And so then I've got three tangible steps that help me to be able to forward towards that mark.
Oh, I love that. I hope you guys picked up those lovely nuggets of wisdom that she just dropped down there for you. And I love that. I love that. Well, Kanae, it is time for us to take a very short break. But before we do, if someone wants to reach out to you on socials or they want to follow you online, what is the best way to do that?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, excuse me. You can find me at Quinae Jackson, and you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, Overflow.Innovate.Lead.
I love it. Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can visit. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Quinae Jackson. She is Senior Director of Learning and Development at Wayfinder and founder of Overflow, Innovate, Lead, Oil, LLC. Let's jump back into the conversation. Now, I love that you are documenting the impact that is being made, as well as strengthening partnerships. What does it look like when values become aligned in leadership?
It's a great question. What that looks like in action is that there are culture shifts. When values are actually in action, it creates an environment where my partners they actually see that this investment I'm making is not only giving me the return on investment I thought originally, but it's
Hmm.
multiplying that investment because when values are in action, people believe in the work that you want them to do. When people feel safe and that they can show up as their true and authentic selves, it's not just your company, it's our company, it's our
Hmm.
vision. And so they become invested in making sure that you are successful. What this also looks like in action, and what I think is most important, is that you create an environment that is peaceful. And in peace, creativity flourishes.
Hmm.
Creativity leads to innovation. And innovation, if I can be frank, is where the money is. Okay. And so if you can get to this space of innovative flow in your business where the people who work with you, okay? I want you to hear me say with you, not who work for you, but the people who work with you are as invested in the mission as you are, you will
Hmm.
reach innovation. And that is how you surpass your competition. It's by being innovative, it's by understanding what problems people have, and then you're helping them to solve those problems before they even understand that it's a problem. But if the folks on your team are so bogged down in trying to
Hmm.
work through their own internal chaos because they don't feel safe, they don't feel secure, they don't know if they're going to be laid off, they don't know, what's going to happen. But when your values are at work, you operate with transparency so people understand.
Hmm.
You tell them the truth. You create an environment where they feel safe to ask and answer questions that are within their own, areas of expertise. And so those are just a few short ways that I would describe what values look like in action.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, along that same vein, and I want to give my little disclosure here because if you were an author, I would tell my listeners if you want to know how the story ends, you got to buy the book. I'm going to ask this next question, and if you want the full and complete answer, you're going to have to visit her website and then work with her personally. With that being said, we understand that as the seasons change round about us, that there are seasons in the work that we do as well. There are going to be, ebbs and flows, great times, prosperous times and lean times. If someone is uncertain about a something or there has been organizational change, what pieces of wisdom can you share with them that will help them remain centered and understand that this too shall pass?
It is a great question. And I do believe I started this interview by saying that everything I do is grounded in my Christian beliefs. So I want
Hmm.
you all to not let this gloss over because I'm not just quoting scripture, but what I'm saying to you is literally a foundational principle that's also grounded in neuroscience. You have to let the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, keep your heart and your mind.
Hmm.
Okay. What does that look like in action? When it feels chaotic, when you see, hiring freezes happening, when they start asking you, oh, can you document this thing? Can you document that thing? And it feels like a trigger that, why are you asking me to document this when I'm doing this thing? And it begins to feel like you want me to do this so you can get rid of me. Let the peace of God guard your mind. Because here
Hmm.
is the truth that I know. For those who love the Lord, the Bible says he will never leave you and he will never forsake you. So no matter
Hmm.
what season you find yourself in, God will cover and he will provide. I think back to a time when I first left, not first left, but when I first graduated from college and I was working a job and I was making $22,000 a year. Okay. $22,000 a year. I want you all to know I had my own apartment. I had
Mm-hmm.
my own car. I did not struggle. I never missed anything. I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes would go to my mailbox and I would have checks. One time, someone said that there was a check that I was supposed to get from somewhere, and it came to me, and it was the exact amount that I needed for
Mm-hmm.
something that I needed to cover. And mind you, I also was working on a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying all of that to say that no matter what the number looks like, God will provide for you, but you have to be working
Yes.
from a mind that is at peace. Now, let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about the heart because the heart, it can deceive you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It can make you feel and think and believe some things. So, how do I get my emotions, my heart in a place to be able to accept what's happening? Now, this is a conversation that I have with my own self all the time. Because sometimes what our heart tells us is that because this thing or this particular time or season in life is ending, that I have failed, that I have not done what I was sent to do. You all and me and anybody else has to do
Mm-hmm.
is to help your heart to understand that you completed the task that you needed to complete where you
Mm-hmm.
were in that season. Sometimes you plant the seed. Sometimes you prune the tree. Sometimes you uproot the tree. Just because you didn't see it from planting to fruit does not mean that you did not accomplish your goal because that may not be what you were sent there to do. That goes back to what I said earlier about being intentional with aligning your purpose. Know what you were sent there to do. That is one way to keep your heart from deceiving you and then your brain to take actions that will actually ultimately hurt you. What do I mean? Well, your heart tells you they're trying to get rid of you. So then it tells your brain that you need to do something drastic, which then actually gives them the ammunition that they fire you without giving you that nice package that you were going to get when they did actually let you go. I'm not saying you weren't going to be let go, but there is
Mm-hmm.
a way for everything. And so you
Mm-hmm.
have to have the peace of God. You got to have peace with God, but you got to know that He will keep you at perfect peace.
Amen to that. Do not allow your emotions to sabotage all of the work that you have done. Master your emotions. I love that piece of advice. So glad I asked that question. I know someone is going, yep, thank you. That was the answer that I needed. Spot on. Now, I know that unfortunately, as leaders, you may feel that I'm not being seen. I'm not being understood. So, even as leaders, though you may be an awesome and amazing leader and your team is doing a really great job, the people above that leader may not be giving them the shine that they deserve. Would you say that the same is true for that leader, not just that employee or team member, but for that leader as well? Continue to just rest in that peace and walk the path that God has given you.
Yes, and just because
Mhm.
you are walking in peace, it doesn't mean, right? I don't know where I heard this from, but they said just because you're humble, it doesn't mean that you mumble. And so I think that it is important that as you walk in peace, you are also very clear in documenting. You have the artifacts, you have all of the things that you need to make sure that when the time comes, I always tell everyone who's on my team, I want you to make a folder in your Google Drive, and I want you to name that folder Praise for the Raise. They may not recognize
Mm,
you today or tomorrow, but when the time comes and when it matters most, you will have all of the artifacts and tools that you need. And that too will help keep your heart and mind at peace because you'll know
mm,
what it may be coming, but they can't just do me any kind of way. If they try this thing, I have all of the artifacts that I need to make sure that I'm covered and protected as I transition out of this space. Because sometimes the recognition that we want and that we desire, and even the recognition that we earn, we
mhm.
may not get it in that particular place. That doesn't mean that it's never going to come. And
Right.
sometimes not getting that recognition can also act as a covering, not all the time, because sometimes there are other things in place that are going to ultimately sabotage things. And so it may be a good thing that your name isn't connected with it. But my ultimate advice would be to walk in the peace of God, but also have your evidence, collect your artifacts, be ready to tell your story. Because if you can't tell your story and you can't document your story, someone else will do it for you, and they're not going to give you the justice that you deserve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Speak life over yourself, over your business, over your teams, and everything you do. I love that idea. Quinae G. Jackson, thank you so much for spending some time with us here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I have enjoyed my conversation with you. Now, before I let you go, though, if someone wants to reach out to you, if they want to follow you on socials, how do they do that?
Absolutely. You can reach me at Overflow.Innovate.Lead at gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Overflow.Innovate.Lead. There's also a LinkedIn page for Overflow.Innovate.Lead, or you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn, Quinae Jackson.
I love it. Thank you again for being a guest here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. And listeners, thank you for spending some time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere and you chose to spend it with us. I thank you for doing so. I hope that we have once again enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.